The grand Goldstein concert hall was alive with energy. Marble floors reflected the warm yellow glow of chandeliers, and the sound of hurried footsteps echoed through the backstage corridors. The audience had taken their seats, whispering with anticipation for the final audition of the National Classical Talent Showcase. It was the kind of event where the elite came to watch the elite. No room for amateurs, no room for mistakes. Among the chaos, a soft click echoed, the rhythmic sound of a white cane tapping against the floor. Amira Johnson, 24, walked slowly but surely, her hand gently skimming the wall. She wore a plain black dress, her long braids tied into a loose bun. Dark glasses covered her eyes. She wasn't accompanied by a manager, no sponsor, no camera crew, just her and a folded music sheet she couldn't even read, not with her eyes anyway. Backstage, the air was thick with nervous energy. Young, classically trained pianists rehearsed obsessively on portable keyboards, adjusting bow ties and retouching makeup. And then came a sudden hush. A man walked in, tall, sharp-jawed, with a navy blue Italian suit that shimmered in the light. Sebastian Vella. A world-renowned pianist, a prodigy since age 6. He'd performed for royalty, won every major competition, and judged more showcases than he could count. His fans called him the King of the Keys. His critics? Arrogance with a piano. He was the guest of honor, and also a guest judge. Cameras followed him like bees to nectar. Even fellow contestants tried to sneak photos. That's when his eyes caught her. Standing by herself, hands folded, eyes hidden, was Amira. Sebastian squinted and tilted his head. "Excuse me," he said loudly, loud enough for the nearby crew and a few contestants to hear. "Is she competing?" A hush spread like wildfire. One of the volunteers nodded. "Yes, sir, Amira Johnson. She's our final performer today." Sebastian raised an eyebrow. "She's blind." Another voice behind him added, "Apparently she plays by ear." He chuckled. This should be a delightful disaster. The others laughed nervously. Amira stood still, pretending not to hear, but every word hit like a stone. "Do they let anyone into this competition now?" Sebastian continued, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Next time, maybe we'll let a mime play." A few contestants chuckled. Others avoided eye contact. A young assistant tried to intervene. "Sir, she's quite talented. The preliminary judges." "Talent isn't enough," Sebastian snapped. "This is art. This is mastery. It takes vision to create beauty." Amira gently adjusted the strap of her shoulder bag and turned toward the sound of his voice. Her lips curled into a calm, unfazed smile. "Maybe the kind of vision you're talking about isn't always in the eyes." A pin-drop silence. Sebastian's smirk faded for a second, just a second, and then he waved it off, returning to his circle of admiration. Backstage, Amira found a quiet corner, pulled out a small audio recorder, and played a soft voice. Her mother's. Recorded years ago, just after Amira had gone blind. "The world will tell you can't. It'll laugh before it listens. But baby, don't ever let them mute your music." Her fingers, calloused and practiced, tapped a melody on her thigh. Her internal world lit up with sound. The way she visualized music was unlike anyone else. Notes weren't on paper for her. They were colors in her mind, stories in sound waves. She remembered her first recital, the one where a girl in the front row whispered, "Is this some kind of sympathy act?" She remembered the teacher who said, "She's good for someone like her." And now she remembered Sebastian, a man who judged her with the same eyes that had never seen her play. She inhaled deeply. Let them stare. Let them doubt. Because when her hands touched the keys, she didn't need to see the world. She became the world. When the coordinator called her name, There was a strange silence across the auditorium, the kind you get before a storm. Phones lifted. A few people nudged one another. From the back of the stage, Amira emerged, step by step, cane tapping gently, echoing through the vast space. The judges sat up. Some of the audience leaned forward, half curious, half expecting a train wreck. Sebastian sat in the front row, his arms folded tightly across his chest, expression unreadable. Amira reached the piano. She paused, ran her fingers across its smooth surface. She placed her cane beside the bench, straightened her back, and let her hands hover above the keys. One last breath, one last memory of every rejection. And then, silence, as if the piano, the audience, the world was waiting. Amira sat on the grand piano bench, her posture upright, calm, almost regal. The spotlight bathed her in soft gold, casting shadows on the polished wood around her. She rested her hands just above the keys, not touching them yet. The silence in the hall thickened. Even those who were skeptical now found themselves oddly alert, as if something sacred was about to begin. Sebastian Weller sat in the front row, his fingers tapping rhythmically against his forearm. A camera near him zoomed in, capturing his smug, unbothered expression. And then, with a soft press of her finger, Amira played the first note. It was low, soft like a whisper in a cathedral. Then another note followed, and another. The melody began to form, delicate and slow, like a heartbeat after grief. The notes didn't just flow, they spoke. They told stories without words. People leaned in. The audience, once waiting to laugh or pity, now found themselves unable to blink. Her hands moved with grace, as though they had memorized every emotion, sorrow, hope, struggle, and the quiet strength that lives between the two. The tempo increased slowly, like rain turning into a storm, and with each chord she poured herself out, not to impress anyone, but to release years of silence, rejection, and judgment. Amira's head tilted slightly, her face calm, but her fingers relentless. It wasn't rehearsed. It was alive. There was no sheet music in front of her, no conductor. She was in her own world, and the world was now hers. The judges who had earlier whispered and raised brows were now frozen. One of them, a stern woman known for her cold critiques, had tears pooling at the edge of her eyes. Even Sebastian's confident posture had faltered. His brows narrowed. His tapping stopped. For the first time in his career, he wasn't the master of the room. A blind woman with nothing but touch and soul had stolen it from him. By the time Amira reached the middle of her performance, the hall was breathing with her music. The soft passages were like childhood memories, tender and warm, while the powerful crescendos struck like thunder after lightning, cracking open the hearts of even the coldest skeptics. People weren't just listening. They were feeling. Parents thought of their children. Daughters thought of their mothers. One boy in the back, wearing noise-cancelling headphones, cried silently. He had never heard something so real. And Amira. She wasn't playing the piano. She was freeing herself on it. Each note a step away from the years of being told she didn't belong. Each chord a refusal to be labelled by what she lacked. As the final movement began, the melody softened again. Her fingers slowed down, as if bidding goodbye to something heavy. The last note, a high, delicate whisper, lingered in the air and faded. Silence. A moment of stillness so profound it felt holy. Then, applause. Not just polite clapping. A roar, a storm, a standing ovation that shook the walls. People stood up so quickly that some bumped their chairs. Hands clapped until they stung. Others wiped tears without shame. A man in the third row yelled, "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." Cameras turned from Sebastian to Amira, from arrogance to grace. And there she sat, still, calm, bowing her head gently. A reporter ran backstage, live streaming as she approached Amira, who had just stepped down, her cane now back in hand. Microphones surrounded her. Lights flashed. "Amira," one asked breathlessly, "how did you do that? That performance? It was like magic." Amira smiled softly and replied, "I may be blind, but when I play, I see everything." The video went viral within hours. By midnight, she was trending worldwide. Clips of her performance were shared by musicians, athletes, and even presidents. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all flooded with the same phrase. "Blind girl leaves world speechless." Even celebrities who didn't follow classical music tweeted about her, calling her the soul pianist. A day later, a TV anchor opened their evening broadcast with, "A woman with no sight reminded the world what true vision looks like." Sebastian Veller, meanwhile, posted a short apology on his social media. "I judged too quickly. Talent always finds its voice." The comments beneath his post were filled with one-word replies. "Too late. She humbled you. She didn't need your approval anyway." He didn't speak publicly again. A week later, Amira received a call from Carnegie Hall, inviting her to headline a concert. A scholarship offer arrived from Juilliard. Major recording labels reached out. But she didn't seem rushed or excited. When asked what her next step was, she answered, "To keep playing. For those who were never given a stage, for those still sitting in silence." And in that moment, the world realized Amira wasn't just a pianist. She was a symbol of strength without aggression, of